if you're here for the next episode of Spill Your Heart, Artistic Inspiration, Finding the Magic, then you're right. So we just want to have you guys come in, give you some time to join us, and you can chat with us in the chat section. Kim already put something in there. Just make sure when you the first time post something, you need to change send chat to panelists and attendees. I don't know why that always goes just to panelists, but that way everyone can see us. Hey, Tanya's here from the UK, and I see Jacqueline from the Netherlands, and Neil is here. Hi, Neil, good to see you. Here's Katja from Berlin. Hazel is here. Hi, good to see you, Hazel. So cool to have you guys here. Hi, Sherry, nice to see you from Northern California. And here is Glenda is here from Henderson, Nevada, saying hey to Dee as well. So yeah, just change from panelists and to panelists and attendees in the chat, and then everyone can see it. So wonderful to have you guys. We will talk soon about the question, the topic. But if you have questions later about the topic to us, make sure that you put them not in the chat, because the chat always flies like so fast. Put them in the Q&A, which is another section here where you can put that in, and then it will stay there, and we can pick the questions from you and try to answer them. For those of you guys that don't know me, I'm Natalie Callback. I'm the host of Spill Your Heart. I'm a mixed media artist originally from Germany. I'm living in New Jersey. I also do Creative Jumpstart. You might know me from that. If you don't know me, check out my website and my Instagram. And I do love to collaborate with other artists. That's why I do Creative Jumpstart and things like this, because I love to talk to other artists and discuss things that are dear to my heart, right? Join my Creative Hood Facebook group if you want. And in terms of what's new in my studio, I just want to tell you I have just released some art foamies. If you haven't seen them, check them out. There are, you can't see them, but they are like, I mean, it's black, right? It's black in a dark room. So, but I want to show you, I got a Lady Liberty. That's the size of the Lady Liberty, and a fire hydrant. And I love the fire hydrant. I'm like, it's the cutest thing in the world. So check it out. And the other thing that is new, oh, I can actually show you a little photo of that. Here we go. Look at that. Here are the new foam stems. That might be better. And the other thing that I want to tell you real quick about it, I do a Zoom cast with my friend Sarah Matthews every first Tuesday of a month, and it's a little bit different when the Spill Your Heart panel. And so next Tuesday, August 3rd, Sarah and I, we're actually having a guest. It's for our 6 Art Collab Zoomcast. We do have Rachel Juanita Bellamy as a guest, and she, you might know her, organized the Pass the Brush event last year, and she's super fun. And I hope you join us, guys, and see what we guys are discussing with her, and talk about, you know, pass the brush and what changed through it, or what should still change. And I think you join us. But without further ado, today, Spill Your Heart, episode 6, Artistic Inspiration, Finding the Magic. And I want to talk about all important but sometimes elusive ingredient to creativity, which is inspiration. So I want to talk about, see if our guests can share some practical tips for finding and energizing your artistic mojo, or how do we encourage it if it gets a little bit like swampy, sluggish, or takes a temporary hiatus, and or sometimes it goes completely missing. I think we have all been there. And so we will discuss that. So I want to introduce our guests. Here is my friend Birgit Koopsen, who you also see there. Kim is going to put the links for all of our guests in there. So please follow them. And if you don't yet. So Birgit lives in the Netherlands and she's a mixed media artist. Her favorite things to do right now are art journaling, monoprinting, and layered collage art. And she loves to get her hands dirty and experiment with paints and inks and all kinds of mediums. And if you don't follow her yet, but if you follow her, you know, her art is mostly bright and colorful with a million gazillion layers and details. And Birgit has her own product line with Carabel Studio, for whom she designs stamp stencils and art printing plates. And she is also a lead brand ambassador for Jelly Arts. Hey, Birgit.
Hi.
Before we go to the other guests, I want to ask you, is there anything that's new coming up from your side that you would like to tell us and say, hey, check that out? Or
Well, since you're giving me the opportunity, I would like to take it and tell a bit about an upcoming event that I'm organizing. It's a multiple week live workshop with each week 2 hours of live class and a lot of extras, bonus videos, worksheets, question and answers in live sessions. And it's going to run over 6 weeks. And it's starting end of September, and all the details are coming soon on my social media.
So yeah, make sure that you follow her on Instagram and don't miss out. I actually got a little sneak of it, and I have to say, so, yeah. And then next, I want to introduce my dear friend Amanda Trought. She is wonderful. Check out her Instagram and website as well. Amanda is a mixed media artist living in Barbados who uses a variety of materials such as clay, fabric, recycled materials, and collage to create art and tell a story that impacts the viewer through color and texture. She explores how art and creativity can impact health and well-being and how we use creative expression as a means of communication. Amanda curates an arts and health network, writes for her website and blogs, and produces weekly podcasts and YouTube videos, which are amazing. And she's sharing aspects of art, creativity, interviews, and reviews. And I want to move into her garden because that's so cool. Hey, Amanda, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. So great to be here.
Amanda, is there anything that you would like to tell that is upcoming or cool or, you know, both?
Well, I do have something actually. It's my first solo course. So.
Oh no, where did you go? Amanda. Oh, okay, I'm gonna introduce Dee and then go back to Amanda as soon as we have her back. She might have just a little freeze. Hopefully she will be back, but we will get back to her, promised. Hey, Dee. So Dee is a mixed media artist, instructor, and product designer. She adores sharing her love of art by teaching techniques, demoing products, chatting about fundamentals, and designing unique supplies for artists to use. She owns I hope I say it right, Wow Studio, a mixed media supply company with really cool stuff. And Dee considers herself an equal supply opportunist, dabbling in tons of forms and media while leaning heavily towards vintage ephemera, collage, and mark making. She loves sharing her raw art brain as she works through pieces live online, live in person, and via pre-recorded videos. And her work is just stunning. I mean, like, Dee, every time I see something on Instagram or Facebook from you, I'm like, wowzers. So Amanda, we will get back to you in a second, okay? So Dee, is there anything that's coming up that you also want to tell us that's new from your side?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here, Nat. I think right now, like I use the term when it rains, it pours. There's so much going on. I kind of feel like a golden child at the moment. So I just want to invite you to visit my website where you can click for inspiration. And there are like collaborations and individual workshops, and even like my first in-person workshop in 2 years is coming up this fall. So yeah, I'll just plug that. I think that'll be good. Thank you.
Awesome. That's amazing. Another one with a new workshop. So all three of you, Amanda, sorry that you got somehow something happened to your connection. Sorry about that. So we were just about to say.
I think I can. So yeah, the course starts, the registration starts on Tuesday, and then the course starts in 2 weeks. There's an early bird special of $37. And there's a free print, the print that we create as well, and a coloring book, coloring inspiration. So there's lots of inspiration around the course. So yeah, check it out. And if you connect with me on Instagram, you'll be able to see all the details for the course.
Very, very cool. So I hope you guys are all checking out the free artists and their amazing courses. So Marsha asked, what is your course about? I assume it's a printmaking course?
Who, me?
Yeah, Amanda.
Oh, no, it's about, we're going to create an image. We're going to create a painting. So we look for inspiration out in the garden. We look at the colors, we look at the shapes, because some people find it difficult to create their own shapes or mark making. So we look at, well, what's out in nature, and we bring that back into the studio. We create an image, we create a background layer. Some people don't want to create an image, so you can just create background, and there's so many different things you can do with it. So yeah, there's a bit for everybody.
Very cool. That sounds cool. I think that was you got caught off when you started, talking.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you were like the frozen one. Don't we all love it? So now I want to start asking some questions and see how we can get the conversation going. But again, I see MJ Eckhart, you're raising a hand. We can't see you guys. You seeing us. If you have a question, you just go to the Q&A and put the question in there, and then we will get to it at some point. So I want to know, guys, how you feel about it. Like, I mean, I know that sometimes there's a lot of discussion about like, how do you find inspiration? But I also want to talk about like, what do you do with inspiration, right? So one of my rituals is, for example, I call it the stroll through the hood. I've done that for many, many years, that I try to do daily a walk through my neighborhood. And I try to kind of like put myself in this kind of mood where I'm saying, let's see if I discover something that's new or that I haven't seen, or like just basically being present while I'm walking. And then I see things. I mean, I walk those streets like all the time, but I see things that are like cool patterns, or, maybe it is a crack in the or new mural or whatever. And I take a photo, and it's not only what I see, it's also that I just go out and not think about things too much that, are heavy on my head. I mean, there's things that are heavy on my head. Apparently, there fell a lot of heavy things on my head, but, to just like get out of this. So that's what I do, like daily walks. Is there something that you have as a ritual to kind of like do that as an inspiration seeking thing? Dee, do you have something that you do to find inspiration? Like,
No, I know where I draw inspiration from, but I just feel like I'm bombarded by it all the time, and it's kind of like a cloud, and I can pick and choose from it at just sort of what's standing out the most, maybe what's biggest, what fell and hit me on the head. I'm not sure, but I don't have a ritual to find inspiration just because I always have so much.
So where do you draw then inspiration from?
My biggest form of inspiration comes from collaborations with other people. So even whether it's artists and workshops that are coming up, or shared artwork when we're working on the same piece, or even like when I go live with supporters, I like to say, all right, here's what I have going on. I'm thinking blue or pink. What do you think? And then it's more of a collaboration that way between me and some of my students as well.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Amanda, where do you draw mainly your inspiration from? And is it like a ritual that you do or not?
Yeah, I think it's probably, you call it a ritual, because first thing every morning, well, I've got a dog, so we go out into the garden and he runs off and does his thing, and I'm out there cutting some plants back, or, you know, seeing what's growing. And that's my biggest source of inspiration, because everything out in the garden I've grown from seed or cuttings or a plant that I've brought. And then I come back here in the studio and I always allow myself usually about up to an hour just to do anything I want. It could be working with a new tool or supply, or I could have seen something and I thought, you know, oh, well, I want to try that. And I just allow myself free rein to do it. I've got other things that have to be done, but they always get done after I've given myself that hour just to play. So I always spend time playing. First thing in the morning, so that it sets me off. It sets me off as a good place for the rest of the day.
That's actually really cool. So you find that you do your ritual of, you know, being inspired by your walk, but then you also give yourself time to kind of process that for an hour by just playing, and there might be unconsciously or consciously something pouring into your playtime, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. How about you, Birgit?
Well, no, I don't have rituals. And usually I don't really go looking specifically for inspiration. Usually my head is so full that I don't even have the time to do it all. So my biggest problem usually is not to find the inspiration, but to see where to start, not knowing where to start. What am I going to do first? Focus on something. What am I going to pick where? So that's usually harder than actually thinking of what to do or what I want to do or inspiration. But I do realize that I have the most inspiration when I do a lot of creating. So when I do, for instance, a challenge on Instagram and I have to create content daily for people, then I have so much inspiration and I have actually more ideas than I can actually put into the challenge. But then when the challenge is over, I'm kind of like feeling empty, or I don't feel like creating anymore for a little while. And if I don't create for a while, then it's going to be hard to start again. And then I have to dig for that inspiration and for the ideas and to get started again. So yeah, and then I might go looking for inspiration, but I don't have a ritual for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like the longer you don't actually create, the harder it is to kind of like get back to to creating. Like you might have an arsenal of inspiring things, but the just their ritual of doing something, if that is missing, that's really kind of hard. So what do you do when you feel like you're in a kind of, so the inspiration doesn't seem to be a huge problem for any of us, maybe, but like how do you what do you do if you feel like, I don't know, I mean, we call it uninspired, but actually it's the wrong word. maybe, right? Like to say, like, yeah, I'm inspired, but I just don't know how to. So how do you get yourself back into the groove? Amanda, do you ever have that time where you do not play and more every morning an hour? And if you say, no, I never have that time where I do not do, then I want to know your recipe.
Well, I think I don't look at my creativity as just the art that I produce. I look at everything I do, you know, has a creative element to it. So if I'm not feeling like, there are sometimes I want to maybe work in an art journal, but I don't know where to start. It's not that I don't know where to start, I'm not feeling inspired, but I feel that, you know, I then do something else. So and one of the problems again for me is that, yes, there is a lot of things that you want to work on, lots of ideas that you may have, but it's do something else that might be creative. Go and listen to some music, or dance like nobody's watching, or, you know, sing or cook, or as I say, my garden is my second place that I'm creative, so I'm usually out there. And I think it's okay not to feel inspired to do a particular thing, but if you look at the bigger picture and say, it doesn't matter what I do, it's going to be creative. If I sit and read a book, you know, that's a creative act because I'm being taken away to a mysterious place or wherever it is. So if you look at your life as the whole, and creativity and finding inspiration is something that you can get from anywhere, then I think that's a good place to be, because you're never going to dry up. And if you're stuck in the studio, then take yourself out, go for a walk, or connect with a friend, or collaborate, or, you know, but doing something different from what you would normally do. So I find I very rarely feel stuck, because I'm working on so many different things that I can say, okay, well, I'm going to try that.
That's actually such a wonderful way to think about it, to say it's a change of your mindset, and to see other things that do not include paint or the actual art that you are usually like call your artwork producing creative, like cooking, gardening. That's also part of my creative life. So it changes your mindset, and you say, I'm still creative if I do not have a paintbrush in my hands. DeeDee, how is it for you? Like if you're in a real creative slump, what do you do to kind of get yourself out of it?
Well, first I start, like, I just label it what it is. Like, I'm legit unmotivated. For whatever reason at that particular time, I'm not motivated to create art or do whatever I need to get done. And I used that term, and you used it for me in my introduction, raw art brain. So I think it's the perfect term, because it's all over the place. My brain, you know, kind of like Birgit said, there's so much all the time, colors and color theory and marks and this and that and whatever might be happening in my creative life, or if I have a workshop or I have scheduling to do. It's colorful and it's messy. It's kind of like a kid making a mind map. So I make lists. And if you saw my planner, I think you would laugh, because it is specifically line after line after line of black boxes and black, this is what you have to do, and black check marks for the stuff I've gotten done. Because there is so much all over the place-ness with everything else I do, I have to make schedules and lists so that my raw art brain gets wrangled in to get the stuff done that needs done. So that kind of keeps me motivated. Like, next week I have this due, so I should definitely work on it this weekend. Where this particular project I can maybe do next weekend or even the weekend after.
Which leads me to a question, because I'm very much like you in terms of lists and, you know, having even like creative things I want to do as to-dos, which sounds like crazy, but I was a paralegal. Is this your second career, DeeDee? And what have you been before? Maybe that Maybe you have been also in, like something like that.
No, I can say I am lucky enough to have eaten, slept, and breathed art from the time I did my first project for extra credit in 3rd grade. And you know what? I can remember it was making a model airplane out of like a soda box, like a cardboard box that cans of soda come in. I do have a product design background, a Bachelor of Arts in Industrial Design. So there was a lot of like mechanical engineering and 3D rendering there that may have some of that more like black and white, no leniency sort of influence. But really, no, definitely not paralegal or doctor or lawyer or any mathematician. That's scary. Nothing like that.
I love that though. It's a great, I find it also a great tool to make lists of, you know, when you're like really overflowing in that moment, and then you have that list of what you wanted to do. You could kind of feed from that, but also it helps you definitely to keep your deadlines and stuff.
Yes, I always have just a straight black pen and a piece of paper, so that if it gets out of control, I just start making those lists and it kind of wrangles it all in.
Very cool. That's a good tip as well. Birgit, what do you do to get yourself out of like the slump and like use the inspiration that you have gathered in a different time?
Yeah, well, first, it's more that I sometimes just don't feel like getting creative than that I don't have anything to do. And that's okay with me. I'm fine with being not creative for a while. I have that sometimes after vacation when I come home and I've been away for 3 weeks and I've not been creative for 3 weeks and I have a hard time picking it up again. I'm not the kind of artist that needs to create every day. So I usually just leave it for a while, and usually then after a couple of days it just comes back and my head is overflowing again and I just go into the studio and create. But sometimes it takes too long for me personally, that I think it takes too long before I get back to creating, or I have a deadline and I need to get creative. And what helps for me most is just sit down and do it. So I get my gel plate out and some paint or inks, and I just start gel printing. And when I'm printing, then the ideas start coming. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. Or I get a nice print and I'm like, oh, I could do this with that. Or, you know, so one thing leads to the other. And so if I really feel like I need to get creating again, I just do it. Basically, that's basically what it is. I just do it. But for me, it's okay to not be creative for a while.
Well, I think it's so interesting because, like you said, you were traveling, and then I would say that Amanda probably would say, well, you are kind of creative at that time. You're taking new things in. Yeah. You're like probably going to a museum where you look at landscapes that are different. You're making connections with
photos, many photos. I
right.
gather a lot of inspiration during my vacation, but not being in the rhythm of creating, kind of, I focused on another type of creativity. And then when I come back home, I have a hard time to get back to that like physical creativity with paints and stuff. And then, yeah, sometimes it helps to look at the pictures, because that can also spark something like, oh yeah, I saw that beautiful mural and I want to use those colors or those patterns or whatever. And that can also spark your inspiration. But usually I just let it for a while, and it's okay if I don't create for a couple of days.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I feel like that it's really okay to not like, you know, do art journaling or painting. But just like you, I also, after a while, I'm like, oh no, it's becoming a problem. And then I definitely have to kind of like put that list thing in there, and also block times in my calendar. So I like usually around after Creative Jumpstart, for example, I'm so tuckered out. Like, I feel like all the energy that I have is just like, there's no creative energy in me. And I felt it this summer particularly, but I think a lot of us creatives have felt this particular kind of feeling a little bit drained and like just tuckered out. So I let it happen, right? I was like, that's okay. I can take some days off and not do anything creative in the studio, right? But now I'm like, oh, this is a long time now. And so I started like putting time blocks into my calendar. So, and actually the goal for me is to basically paint some of my urban landscapes, and I have an idea what I want to do with it too. And it's not there yet. So I told Kim yesterday that it doesn't matter that I block this time off from 10 to 1. And in that time, then if I don't paint, then at least I have to either do patterns or art journal, but something in the studio. And I know that if I do that, that there will be, there will be this thing coming back. So this is so interesting that, the mindset, but also like allowing yourself not to be, in it. Diane, I see you're raising your hand. You guys are not on camera. This is a webinar, not like a normal Zoom thing where everyone can talk. So if you have a question, the best way to do that is to post it in the Q&A, and then we will see it and we will answer those questions. The problem is I can't even show you where the Q&A is because we as panelists can't ask ourselves questions in there. So maybe someone like Tanya or Marsha, could you just post a question for fun in the Q&A so everyone sees where that is? And then if you have a question, you can directly ask the question there. So Kim had a question for you, and she said, thank you, Marsha. So when you see Q&A and there's a 1 over it, that's where you can post your question. Thanks for your fun question. Thanks for the heart, Tanya. So did you ever had like I think there's like different kinds of things, right? Like we talked a little bit about it, Dee, when you said like, when I have deadlines coming, I'm very like thorough with lists, and so am I. And so some artists have more problems actually when they have a deadline to then specifically create for that deadline, and they have this block. And some artists need a deadline. Like I have one creative squad on my design team member, and she says sometimes, like I say, do it whenever you feel like it, and she says, please give me a deadline. Give me a deadline. I need my deadline, right? Otherwise, I will never do it. So it's interesting. Are you more like artists that need deadlines and you're like, that's what I feed from, and then I will have an idea? Or do deadlines make you actually kind of stump? And then the second question is like, did you ever had like a big thing and the inspiration and idea was just not coming, and what did you do to solve that problem? Who should go first?
Oh, I can answer that. So I definitely need deadlines. If you don't give me a deadline, you will never get anything from me. It's as simple as that. I have to have an agreement with you that I will deliver something on a certain date, and I will deliver it. But usually, like for Creative Jumpstart, you send out invitations like, I don't know, 3/4 years ahead, and then already what the theme is and stuff like that, and you can work on it for a long time. But I can promise you that I will do it in the last week, because I need that pressure. I can think about it the whole year. What am I going to do for something like, for instance, Creative Jumpstart? And there will be no ideas. And then in the last week, I get my perfect idea. And I'm like, see, I needed to wait this long because I didn't get any good ideas before. I just need that pressure. And so usually I don't struggle with inspiration just before a deadline, because the pressure of the deadline actually makes everything come out, or I don't know.
Okay, that's cool. Who wants to go next, Dee or Amanda?
If it's okay with Amanda, I'll go, because I kind of feel like Birgit is saying everything that I want to say. Legitimately, I can remember all the way back to college, and my professors would be like, where the hell is your stuff? And I'll be like, don't worry, it's not due till the day after tomorrow. I have one more night to stay up and do it. Wait, and it just, again, I'll think about it the whole time, just like Birgit, and I might have all of this inspiration and all these ideas, but only at the last minute. And so I'm telling you ahead of time now, Nat, it'll be there, but it'll be there midnight, okay? Because that perfect one will come to the forefront the day before it's due, and then I'll do it and I'll photograph it, and here, now you can have it.
Which I want to say there, I want to point someone out, and she's probably kill me later, but Birgit Koopsen, who has been on Creative Jumpstart for many times, as well as Carolyn Doobie, are the two that are competing every year to be the first ones. And I cannot tell you that I sometimes get weakers in a year, like 3 days after I asked her to join Creative Jumpstart. It blows my mind. It's just like, I'm like, and it's good, right? It's really good. You're not like, oh, maybe you should have waited a little, like, it just blows my mind. Amanda, how about you? How are you dealing with deadlines?
Well, I think I'm a last minute Lucy as well, but yeah, say the week before, a couple of days before, that's when the inspiration, the feeling like, oh, the good idea. But the more things that I get on my plate, I don't actually like the pressure, because I find there's always something that happens, either, the internet, because we get power outages here sometimes. So the internet might go off, or the printer stops working, or my computer stops working. And so what I'm trying to train myself to do is give myself more time. And so when I get what the brief is, to kind of think about it and think about just give it more thought and try and do it ahead of time. Because for me, the pressure of, even I used to do exams like that. It's just like, the night before, okay, let's see what more we can learn. But it's just like, for me, I found that whilst some of my good ideas have come at that last minute, anything else can come in and upset, everything. And so I'm, as I say, I'm trying to train myself to do things earlier, so that even if I film it, like yes, we've seen what we've got to do for Creative Jumpstart, but I'm just like, okay, well, I can film it and not necessarily send that particular thing, and see if something else comes. So yeah, giving myself more time now.
That's smart.
Yeah. That's so interesting, you guys. Sorry, Didi.
No, it's okay. Sometimes in extreme cases, I'll fake myself out, and I'll just, like, I know that it says the 17th, but I'll tell myself the 10th. And I'll write it in my planner, in my notes, as the 10th, because I do need that deadline. But like Amanda says, like, sometimes something does happen, and there's something you can't fix, that the internet goes out, you break something, you need a new tool. So yeah, I totally have to fake myself on only extreme cases. I try not to make a habit of it, but because then I'll know. But yeah, sometimes
I would not believe myself if I do that. I mean, I would get to that date in my calendar, and I would see it, and I would know that I still have a week, and I would be like, oh yeah, that's what I said to myself, but it's actually not true. I have another week.
You can't even trust yourself, Birgit.
That is so funny. I'm actually doing that, and the reason is because I learned that in the law office, although all the lawyers were really bad with it. Because what you do if you have a deadline for sending in something to court, you have this like ultimate deadline, but then you put in a pre-deadline. right? And then a reminder for the pre-deadline. And so I learned that when I was working for 17 years. So basically I do that too. I will have a pre-deadline. Like every time I get like, and we're talking not about like making art for ourselves, right? We're talking about like you have a like something that you do for a collaborative workshop or with a company or, you know, but I will put like my pre-deadline in the calendar. When I get the brief of what I have to do, I also break down what they want from me. And I put everything into the calendar and break it down. So I will be like thinking about like how long, so let's say you have a workshop and you have to send in a video, but you also have to send in a supply list. You know, I think about like these things, and then I also put in my calendar a start date to think about the workshop. So I'm like, if you see my calendar, it's
So organized.
pretty crazy.
It's scary.
I get
You
very,
schedule
very
time to
stressed
think?
out. I get super stressed out if it's too close to the deadline and I haven't come up with something. And then bad things. I mean, I'm trying not to, you know, miss things, but like if it's too close to the deadline, then it starts like I have like panic attacks, like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna be like something, a power outage, or you know, someone gets sick, you know. So I just don't want to be in that position, because I know it affects me in so many other ways, and then I can't do all the other stuff, right? So I try to, but this is interesting. Well, okay, Birgit, Didi, you can't fake yourself out.
No, that's not working. But I do put in my calendar about a month before a deadline, if I know it's that long upfront, that the deadline is coming. So when I turn a page that I see, oh, in so many weeks, the deadline for this or this is coming, and then it does sit in my mind and I do think about it. And, you know, it's not that I don't think about it until the last week. I do think about it. I might take notes, but doing the actual assignment, the project or the video or whatever, usually is one of the very last moment things.
If you have any questions, let us know. Again, we love to hear from you or thoughts from you guys for what we're saying. So this is pretty straightforward, though. Again, if we have a deadline, right, like that's what you have to do, and you kind of like now you got to whip something out. But the struggle I feel for me is like bigger with things that I just do for myself. Or let's say when I paint, like if I do my urban paintings, I mean, the goal ultimately is hopefully someone falls in love with it too and wants it, right? But there is no deadline for it. I can do this, like, no one cares if I do this paint. No one but me cares if I do this painting or not, right? If it's not like for someone else or collaboration. So, so sometimes then it's really, really hard to kind of like, okay, I actually have an idea and I have the inspiration, but now you have to paint it. What do you do if it's like there is no deadline? Like, how do you kind of, you know, get it done?
Tell somebody that you want to do it. And like when you have a group of friends, for instance, and you make accountability lists, like saying these are my goals, and you share it. And then every now and then you talk about it and what did you do so far? And I'm kind of like being, oh yeah, I told everybody I was going to do this and I haven't done it. Or tell your partner that you're like with the workshop that I have coming up. I've been thinking about it since the beginning of the year. But as you said, if I don't do it, who cares? I mean, nobody's counting on it. Nobody knows that I have the plan. So I can just postpone it as long as I want, because other things are more fun or more interesting, or I'm too scared maybe to actually actually do it because it's the first thing that I do totally on my own. And then I just told my husband, this is what I'm going to do. And then is when I'm going to do it. And I felt like now I have to do it because somebody knows. I told them.
So you put it out in the universe. That's actually a really cool and accountability buddy, or swim buddy, as Caroline would say, like someone you tell, or your gym buddy, right? Like Kim was my gym buddy. Like I was like, okay, Kim and I, we meet at the gym, and you know, you can't let her hang. You
exactly. Because then you get the feeling that you are letting people down, right? In other, if you don't tell anybody, you're at the most you're letting yourself down, but nobody else. But as soon as you tell somebody and they count on you to do that, then you kind of feel like you're letting people down.
How do you not feel then you're faking yourself out? I'm just kidding.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. In this matter, it is. But that's for stuff that I want to do for myself, and not necessarily because somebody else needs it.
Right.
You know, that's.
I want to go to the questions that we have here from the audience, and I'm gonna ask Dee first, and Dee and Amanda too. Neil asked, do any of you keep sketchbooks and refer back to them for inspiration when you get stuck or unmotivated?
Yeah, you want me to go first?
Sure.
Actually, this has sort of come up a lot recently. I don't really share much of my art journaling, not because it's necessarily private, but I use my art journal, or you may call it a sketchbook, or whatever you have on hand, something you keep close by, really to experiment. So to play with techniques and layering and supplies and color palettes and just whatever our subjects. And I do always have that, and I always use that to work on other projects. So other more finished, finalized art pieces that are statements or may become pieces for sale eventually or something like that. I absolutely do have, and you said sketchbook, but like an art journal that I keep on hand that I just work in whenever, however, whatever I want to do in it.
That's a good point. Amanda, so you said I mean, do you have a sketchbook, but also do you share, as a, you know, coming from Dee's, what she said, do you share what you play every morning, your 1 hour? Like, is that something that you share at all? Or is that also kind of, you know, a little bit more hidden? And do you have a sketchbook?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a sketchbook. It is an art journal. I have about 1 million art journals that I jump from one to the other. And I don't normally share my creative play unless it's something that I've done and I've finished it, and then I think, oh yeah, you know, I want to, you know, share that. Yeah, I think it's I don't, because a lot of the things that I do in my art journals, yeah, because I'm doing so many, they're all unfinished. There's always something that I can jump into and then complete it and then say, okay, yeah, okay, well, that's finished. Because I find it easier if I've got something to do for somebody else to get that done than if it's for myself. And so whether it's, I mean, I'm constantly producing videos each week and content. So that is different from then what I'm doing in my art journals. But I've always got something to jump back into and then say, okay, well, let me see where this can lead, or if this can be sort of like maybe a sculpture, you know, it could be starting my art journal and then make its way into a sculpture, or some of the ideas can be part of a sculpture.
I actually like that both of you were saying that there is things that you just play and you don't share. And I think there's something, I mean, it's just a philosophical, before I get to the next question, and then we'll come back to Birgit, but like, there's something about this, like, kind of, we have to share everything nowadays, right? I feel a little bit over, like I don't want to play this game anymore. Like if I have something to share, I will share it. But I don't feel like I want to be the super content creator for some social media outlet, because what it does actually is it doesn't let me explore and it doesn't let me play, because I'm constantly thinking about, is that worth sharing? But if I let go of that thought, and if it comes out cool, I might share it. If it doesn't, then that's fine too. It was worth putting the time in to do something just for myself. So anyway, you guys, I'm on my soapbox here because I have so strong feelings right now about social media. I'm like, no, you're not the boss of me, like,
I think
Yeah.
we can all connect with that. I mean,
Absolutely.
legitimately, all four of us that sharing on Instagram at this time or that time, and having your YouTube videos ready, and that gets overwhelming a lot. And there are some things that I do, that I create, that I make are just for me. Like you don't have to see my whole life. It's mine.
yeah, right. There are things that you really don't want to see in my life.
That's right too.
So MJ has a really cool question too. She asked, is your inspiration mainly visually inspired or inspired by thoughts, feelings, music, smell, touch? That's really cool. That's a great question. I love that because, yeah, well, I'm not going to answer that right away. So Birgit, how about you? Is it mostly visually or,
I would say so. Yeah, visually. I'm very visual. And now I don't know the English word, but I'm very visual. Like for instance, if we drive somewhere in the car and I look outside and I see a beautiful landscape or something, then I see the photo in my head. Like I think in photos, like how would this look as a photograph, or, how would this look as on video or whatever. So I'm very, very visual, and I'm not like, I mean, I like music, but it's not that music is a really big thing for me. I can go days without music. It's just like music is on in the car. I don't put any music on at home, almost never. So music is definitely not one of my sources for inspiration. Maybe food. Food might sometimes be inspiration. I mean, the colors, the textures, how when you go out for dinner and you get like a really nice plate that is like really beautiful, with really put thought in how to put it on the plate, that can be very inspiring. But then again, that's visual. So yeah.
How about you, Amanda? That's really interesting. Also, you don't put music on ever. What? I'm just kidding.
No, sorry, I don't.
Amanda, what are you mainly?
I think several. So visual for sure. Set. So when I go out in my garden, there's some plants that have come up that are flowering, that are scented, that I go out there and you get a waft of the scent, and it's just like, oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. And last night, oh my gosh, last night I made fish. I made the most beautiful fish, and all the seasonings and everything just came together so perfectly. And I was eating, I'm going, this is so delicious. But yeah, it's mostly visual. I don't have music on in my studio at all. It's usually, when I'm in the house, and if I'm, say, cleaning or just cooking, and so I have the music on. But yeah, and I compartmentalize. So visual mainly, then scent, being surrounded by nice smells. I have my oil burner with, essential oils in here. And then taste. I love the taste of good food. Yeah.
I've never known you. Please, Dee, tell me you're listening to music when you do
I do listen to music, but I listen to a lot of music. Like I like a big variety. But it's not inspirational for me. I think I just appreciate other artistic avenues that I am not fluent in. Like cooking, I love eating and cooking, like seeing beautiful food. I love listening to music. And I was trying to, while everyone else was talking, decide like what my percentage is, but I have to say it's 100% visual, because when I'm in the studio, I have the TV going, and not because I'm listening to it or even paying attention to what's happening, but because there's lights and there's something moving on the screen that just sort of takes up the stillness that is in the studio. And as I was trying to decide how I was going to answer, it occurred to me that that's 100% visual. That's just something that, and it's like a huge, it's kind of embarrassing. It's like a huge flat screen TV on my wall, and I have a laptop that does nothing but stream TV to it, and yeah, 100% visual.
That's so interesting. So I cannot do the TV thing in my studio because I get distracted, or I just feel like I just don't want to have it in my studio. And then the other thing is, I try to listen to podcasts. I can't do that either, because sometimes the topic is so interesting, but then I realize I haven't listened to the last 5 minutes and I have no idea what they're talking about. But I do have music. Like music is a big part for me. And I think because music is for me very tied to oftentimes to things that I remember then, like you were at this part, you were there when you listened to this song, or like it brings back memories or emotions or energy too. I feel like music can bring different energy, like I hear all kinds of different music too. You can have me listen to alternative or punk music, but also to something more soothing. So it depends on what mood I am in, and that brings also emotions and ideas. So for me, music is actually a huge part in the studio. And then
something
Hmm?
about the music. Can I ask you something
Yeah.
about music? Does the type of music you're listening to influence your work, or is it the other way around? Are you working on something specific, and is there a specific music that fits with what you're working on?
I think it fits my mood. Like if I'm an angry person, I might be listening to something that's reflecting that, right? But if I'm in a, I don't know, I could be like listening, I'm in a really good mood and I'm like, it's just like, how about
Yeah, but does
something-
it influence what you do? Does it influence your work, the music you're listening
I think
to?
it sometimes influences like the choice of colors or my flow, like because then I get lost in the music. So yeah, I think it feeds back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's not like, yeah, Marsha just said that I don't think the music influences what I'm making. However, it has to do with the mood and flow. Thank you, Marsha, for saying exactly how I feel. Like it's just like I think you can like, I might be more expressive in what I do with my brush if I listen to like more faster or louder music, but I might not use heavy texture stuff, but I don't know, like it's just like something that's a big part of my studio. Just very interesting. That was a great question, MJ. Let's see if we are almost at the end, but let's see if we can throw it in real quick. Linda asks, are there other members of your family who are also creatives that inspire or inspired you? Is there a person that you want to point out in one sentence that inspired you that was also creative? Amanda.
In my family?
Yeah.
Well, we're all, I come from a family who are all creative, like my husband writes and produces theatre, my son plays the piano, and writes his own music. My stepdaughter is in the theatre as well. So we're all creative, we're all in our creative spaces. And yeah, I've got other family members and friends who are also kind of creatives as well. So it's nice when you can then, you know, have a chat and be not necessarily even talking about the specific work, but bouncing off ideas. And I love coming away from a conversation with somebody and then thinking, oh, I want to try this, or, you know, oh, I might add this to my piece or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so how about you two, Birgit and Didi? Like for me, for example, Jim is, my husband is not a musician, but he studied music and he is very interested in music and music theory. So I have to suffer through some of that stuff. But it also gives me a lot of input and inspiration, because I think sometimes music is a lot like, he does a lot of jazz and improvisation. And, you know, I feel there's a connection to painting, for example. But the outcome is there when you paint, it stays there. And if you do improv music or whatever, it's gone after the fact, unless you record it. So that's something that I feel like inspires me to talk about that kind of stuff. I don't want to listen to that free jazz stuff so much. So how about you guys? Do you have a family member that is creative and then it inspires you? Didi, Birgit?
Well, I'm pretty alone in my family regarding being creative in the way that I am creative. My grandma used to draw pretty well. She was a good drawer, and my father was very creative with wood. He could make everything. So what his eyes saw, his hands could make. He made all toys for our kids and everything. He could do that all by himself. And so my son basically is doing what his grandpa did, and he actually is a builder now. My husband is not creative at all in that way, but he's very creative in thinking, in the way he thinks, finding solutions for stuff, organizing stuff, planning. And my daughters are the same way. So they are creative in a different way. But what I do, the kind of things I do, nobody in my family does. So I'm really grateful for friends who are, because sometimes you just need to share and not only get like, oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Didi, do you have someone who's inspiring you as a creative in your family?
I think I can probably trace it back to my dad when he was young, before he joined the military, God knows how long ago. He always had a sketchbook, and he was kind of one of those like rally against the man drawers. Like his drawings were always funny and provocative, and you know, just silly stuff, but the talent was there. Like it was really good stuff. He just never really did anything with it. So I think that probably was like my kind of kick in the butt to do something with art. But similar to Birgit, other than that, very thankful for friends who like to make the same kind of art so we can connect like this, because otherwise it would be very lonely for me.
Yeah, I love that's why I love the panel, actually, to have, you know, kind of like-minded people, and we talk about these things and you're like, yeah, finally someone gets it, right?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that was so wonderful to have you. Unfortunately, we're already a little bit over the time, but it was so wonderful to chat with you guys. Thank you for your time, and also thank you for everyone who came. I just want to point out the next Spill Your Heart webinar will be on, let me look on my cheat sheet here, the monitor, August 27, also at noon. It's about Net's Creative Squad design team talk. Join our design team discussion with my creative squad members, Robin, and two former members, Nicole Watson and Emily Murphy. Our panel will talk about what it takes to join and flourish on a design team, how they approach assignments, the fun challenge of participating, and what they take away from the experience. So sometimes people are interested how it is to be on a design team, or what do people take away from it. And even if you're not interested in it, it might be interesting to see what people say about being on a team, or how that, I think we will talk about this inspiration and having, when you want to do something for yourself and get creative, and how you get something inspirational. Thank you. Please follow those ladies. They are amazing teachers and artists. And I'm so grateful that you guys had the time today to join me and spilled your hearts.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Nat.
having us. Okay then.
Bye, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye guys. Yeah, bye.